And I think what pulls it all together is that no one person did any of that.
So he's sitting around on a June Thursday thinking about himself and his glory days. And to your point, Smug, I'm starting to warm up to Michelle Obama's POV. I mean, like, what does he do?
Shocking admission about the state of his marriage to Michelle. Go a little bit low, Rob, if you could. So everybody's wondering, like, you weren't there, Jimmy Carter funeral, you weren't there, Trump, and Michelle I'm talking about. And then you start a podcast with your brother. Barack Obama makes shocking 170 Michelle Obama. I was in deep deficit with my wife. He told Tepper, conversation Thursday. So I've been trying to dig myself out of that hole by doing occasionally fun things.
This secret's been buried for years. And then boom, everything exploded when Megyn Kelly and Patrick Bet-David teamed up like a political demolition crew and took a flamethrower to Barack Obama's carefully polished legacy. From mystery mansions to eyebrow-raising interviews, nothing was off limits. Let's just say Obama didn't see this tag team roast coming, and now it's chaos in the liberal group chat. You'll laugh, you'll gasp, and you'll definitely never look at a Netflix deal the same way again.
How about the women who actually were the victim of repression and violence in Israel? No words for them. Former President Obama, nothing to say about the children being murdered in Israel. So far, I guess he couldn't find time to actually use his little thumbs and tweet something.
Obama's second term, he did none. Obama's first term, I think he did one. And Bush's first and second term, he did none on day one. This guy's come out the gates. One moment he's talking to World Economic Forum. Another second you're looking at him, he's talking to California, chewing out, Bass and Mayor Bass and talking to the folks there. Next minute he's in Vegas talking about no tax on tips. Next minute you're seeing him talking to military folks. Next minute you're seeing him on the media.
Just when we thought we'd seen all there is with Obama, everything goes sideways faster than Obama trying to bowl a strike with a 2-pound kiddie ball. Because behind that polished press conference smile and Ivy League swagger lies the man who somehow managed to turn hope into a really well-designed Instagram post. Yes, the man who gave us drones, detentions, and designer suits is now being politely dismantled by people with podcasts and receipts.
Crushing it on the tariffs, foreign policy, just got nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. If not Trump, then who? Honestly. Barack Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize after 9 months in office. He had done nothing. He gave a nice speech about Muslims and they gave it to him.
Let's be honest. If Barack Obama were any more of a brand, he'd come with a QR code and a Starbucks loyalty card. This is the guy who inspired an entire generation to vote and then quietly introduced them to the idea that change meant the same old stuff, just with better lighting. The man could talk about universal health care for 45 minutes straight and still end the speech by handing you a brochure for Blue Cross.
At Jimmy Carter's funeral certainly raised some eyebrows, but yesterday's announcement that she won't be attending Trump's inauguration confirms something is definitely going on between her and Barack. She said whispers about cracks in their relationship have been circulating in D.C. for over a year now, but this feels like the first public proof of a marriage on the rocks. The question now isn't if, but when. If I had to guess, they will wait until after the inauguration to announce it. Timing, is everything. And yet the story doesn't end there. For months, I've heard Jennifer Aniston's name tied.
Bet-David and Megyn Kelly didn't just pull punches. They brought out the intellectual brass knuckles. Because let's be real, the Obama glow-up was less about leadership and more about being the most charming disappointment in recent history. He didn't drain the swamp. He drained your expectations and replaced them with Netflix deals and elite galas.
I wouldn't look at Obama one way or another. I would simply say, I get it. It's tough. Good, God bless. And don't forget, they were young presidents. They weren't old presidents. Yes. So it's a difference when you're a young president. When you're a young president getting out and you're a star power like Netflix showing everywhere he goes and da-da-da-da-da, it's a different kind of a life. So
this is the guy who told you he'd bring transparency to government, then ran an administration so tight-lipped it made the CIA look like a group chat. His version of accountability was letting Wall Street executives off with a stern look and a free cocktail at the next fundraiser.
More fuel on the fire that there's a potential maybe a divorce or some sort of rockiness going on in the Obamas' relationship. They both posted these mirrored, very choreographed Valentine's Day messages on X, but he was just seen at an LA, the basketball team, the Clippers, thank you, game without her. And then on Tuesday, he was spotted eating out at a fancy dinner in Sherman Oaks with his both daughters, Malia and Sasha, but again, no.
Let's not even start on the Nobel Peace Prize. You know you're living in a satire when a guy wins it before finishing a single shift on the job. That's like handing someone Employee of the Month because they showed up to orientation with a nice smile. The man literally got rewarded for existing, which is probably the most Obama thing ever. Meanwhile, foreign policy under his visionary watch looked more like a blindfolded toddler swinging at a piñata. Syria? Oops. Libya? Double oops. And Iraq. Well, that was basically an oops casserole with a side of drone strikes and a sprinkle of PR statements. And don't forget the famous red line in the sand that turned into a light suggestion, followed by awkward silence and a backpedal so impressive it should have been in the Olympics. Obama's foreign policy was basically a masterclass in how to speak softly while handing someone else the stick, and then blaming Bush when things went sideways. Meanwhile, domestically, he entered office with a supermajority and somehow still treated Congress like it was a magic 8-ball. Can we pass meaningful reform? Shakes. Reply hazy. Try again later. It's almost like the man believed in bipartisanship so much, he forgot to be the president.
Tom, what is the process of Nobel Prize? If he's able to do that, who nominates? Because most of the Nobel winners are on the left.
Nobel Prizes, you can go look this up, are given through an arcane nomination process, and they go into a back room and they decide who they're going to give it to. And the Nobel Peace Prize is basically a political football. You look around the world at people that have really caused peace, and you have Obama made a couple speeches as soon as he was inaugurated in 2009. Oh my goodness, we give it to for fostering an environment of peace. He didn't do anything.
He was the king of long-winded speeches that left people feeling moved, then confused. He dropped phrases like the arc of history and the audacity of hope. And by the end, nobody knew whether they were inspired or just politely hypnotized. You'd wake up 30 minutes later wondering why your taxes went up and why your insurance now includes a deductible for existential dread. Patrick Bet-David didn't just rip the curtain back. He yanked the whole stage off its hinges. Because here's the truth, Obama wasn't the savior. He was the guy who talked like Gandhi and governed like a slightly more self-aware Nixon. All hope, no hustle. All charisma, no concrete. The man could have sold sand in a desert and somehow convinced you it was a revolutionary anti-heat innovation. And Megyn Kelly? She dissected the Obama aura with the precision of a surgeon and the sass of a real housewife at a reunion special. Because eventually someone had to ask, why did the most transformative president leave behind a nation that looks eerily like the one he inherited, just with better phone cameras and a lot more identity politics? Obama gave us, yes we can, but followed up with, actually, Congress said no, so never mind. His legacy is a political IKEA manual, full of confusing instructions, missing pieces, and somehow still more expensive than you thought it would be. Remember that famous post-racial America fantasy? Yeah, he floated that idea like a helium balloon, then quietly let go while the country burst into flame wars on Facebook. The man turned identity into an aesthetic. He didn't fix the race conversation. He rebranded it with Helvetica font and soothing background music.
How much is enough money, according to the Obamas? 70 million? Because public reports estimate that that is their net worth, parlayed on the back of Barack Obama's 14 years of holding political office. He did not spend 50 years in government service. He did a stint in the Illinois State Senate. He did a couple years in the U.S. Senate before he ran for office and won. All right, then he did 2 terms as president. And off of that, he's made himself over $100 million. Almost $100 million, probably over, to be honest. We don't know all of the earnings.
And economically, let's just say Wall Street slept better under Obama than they did under most CEOs. He bailed them out faster than a drunk friend at a Vegas jail, while Main Street got a hang-in-there poster and a commemorative coin. His economic recovery plan should have come with a footnote that read, if you're rich, congrats. If not, best of luck. He was the first president who made people feel like things were changing, even as everything quietly stayed the same. The man ran a presidency like a TED Talk, big on ideas, light on follow-through, and always with great visuals. And when things got dicey, he'd retreat into that classic cool demeanor, like a guy who sets the kitchen on fire and calmly asks if anyone wants marshmallows. There was no urgency, just vibes. His signature move? Saying everything in a way that sounded brilliant, until you realized he'd just given a 10-minute speech about absolutely nothing. He was like a philosopher trapped in a bureaucrat's body, passionately advocating for change while quietly negotiating with lobbyists behind closed doors. Remember the healthcare rollout? It was like watching someone try to stream Netflix on dial-up while yelling, "Yes, we can," into the void. Millions of people got coverage, yes, but millions more got dropped, re-enrolled, and confused into oblivion. It was like enrolling in a government-run escape room, except you didn't escape. You just ended up paying more for less.
Reportedly owned four luxury properties. A home in Martha's Vineyard, estimated to be worth some $20 million. In addition to properties in Washington, D.C., reportedly bought for $8.1 million, a beachfront home in Hawaii, reportedly bought for $8.7 million, and a home bought in Chicago for $1.65 million. Is that more than you need, Mr. Obama?
Obama's presidency was the ultimate slow burn, less of a firework, more of a scented candle. Calming, pleasant, and ultimately ineffective at lighting up a room when you really needed it. He gave the nation hope, then handed the wheel to a bunch of technocrats, hedge fund bros, and Silicon Valley dreamers, who promptly replaced your job with an app and your retirement plan with a skills-based gig economy. And the media? They fawned over him, like he invented the alphabet. Meanwhile, policies went unchecked, decisions went unscrutinized, and everyone just nodded along because he made everything sound so reasonable. It was like being gaslit by a guidance counselor. He was the first president who didn't need to yell. He let his followers do that for him. He weaponized politeness and turned cool detachment into a governing philosophy. If inaction were an art form, Obama would have had a solo exhibit at the Louvre. And let's not forget the surveillance state. Obama handed over the most advanced spying tools in human history while giving a masterclass in plausible deniability. You didn't just get watched. You got watched politely, with full legal documentation and probably a courtesy, "Thank you for your cooperation" email. Guantanamo? Still open. Troops? Still deployed. Lobbyists? Still thriving. But hey, he looked good doing it, right? That's the Obama legacy. A presidency curated like an Instagram feed, filtered, flattering, and always 2 steps removed from reality.
A new movie comes out. What's the name of that movie? Civil War. Leave the world behind. Our power grid in America hasn't been updated. 75% of it hasn't been updated in 50 years. And you're kind of talking about that. Then you're pitting whites against blacks. There's a line in the movie that says, "Dad, you know if something goes down, we can't trust these white people. I know that's something both you and Mom agree on." Why do you put that line in the movie, Barack? And you were helping with the script. Why would you put that in the movie? Why would you put that in the movie? Barack, weren't you the same guy that gave a talk at the DNC in 2004 about bringing people together? What happened to that guy?
Obama didn't destroy politics. He turned it into a boutique lifestyle brand. He was less commander-in-chief, more influencer-in-chief. And what did we get for it? 8 years of policies wrapped in poetry and accountability dipped in mystery. By the time he left office, he'd perfected the art of governing by suggestion. Nothing was his fault. Everything was complicated. And somehow, all roads led to someone else's desk. He could have presided over a zombie apocalypse and blamed it on outdated CDC procedures. Meanwhile, Patrick and Megyn weren't even being mean. They were being accurate. Obama's greatest achievement was convincing half the country that being chill was the same as being effective. Like, if you just lower your voice and use multisyllabic words, the economy will fix itself and Russia will stop annexing countries. His answer to crisis was always the same: issue a statement, express concern, and then do basically nothing. He ran the presidency like a Bluetooth speaker: great sound, no wires, and occasionally lost connection when you needed it most. His fans still talk about him like he's a political messiah, while conveniently ignoring the part where he expanded drone warfare, handed the NSA the keys to your private life, and deported more people than any president before him. But hey, at least he wore a tan suit and didn't tweet in all caps, right?
To seize this moment, we have to use technology to open up our democracy. It's no coincidence that one of the most secretive administrations in our history has favored special interests and pursued policies that could not stand up to the sunlight. As president, I'm going to change that. We will put government data online in universally accessible formats. I'll let citizens track federal grants, contracts, earmarks, and lobbying contracts.
Obama's legacy is like a BuzzFeed article, catchy, digestible, and kind of empty once you get past the headline. He promised to change Washington and instead became its most eloquent spokesperson. He wasn't an outsider. He was the best-dressed insider in history. And when Megyn and Patrick dragged the receipts, it wasn't just critique, it was catharsis. It was finally saying out loud what millions had quietly suspected, that behind all that inspirational fluff was a man who played it safe, sold it well, and left the actual reform work for someone else. He governed like he was writing a memoir in real time, every moment calculated, every quote polished, every policy just ambiguous enough to keep everyone guessing. He didn't drain the swamp. He Instagrammed it. Barack Obama didn't change the game. He just added better background music. He gave you the illusion of momentum while carefully steering the ship in the same direction it was always going. And by the time he was done, the system he promised to upend was even more entrenched, just with fancier branding. Hope wasn't a strategy.
It was a vibe.
And now, as the curtain gets pulled back by voices who aren't hypnotized by speeches or magazine covers, all that's left is the uncomfortable truth. Barack Obama was the most charming salesman the status quo ever hired. And we bought it twice.
You just said with the right initiative, and unfortunately, that initiative hasn't been forthcoming. And as a consequence, what's happening is, here's what's happening to ordinary families, because I know one of those boxes was, how does this affect you? The average family has seen their premiums double in the last 9 years. Costs for families are going up 3 times faster than wages. So if you're happy with your health care right now, and many people are happy with their health care right now, the problem is 10 years from now, you're not going to be happy because it's going to cost twice as much or 3 times as much.
Twice.
We bought it twice, like suckers at a timeshare pitch with free hors d'oeuvres and no exit strategy. And while the country clapped along like it was an encore at Coachella, Obama quietly signed off on policies that made Big Brother blush and Wall Street break into spontaneous jazz hands. He didn't just maintain the establishment, he put it in a tux, gave it a TED Talk, and made everyone feel really good about being politically catfished. The man walked out of office with a Nobel Prize, a Spotify playlist, and a record of economic inequality that looked suspiciously like a Wall Street Christmas bonus report. And yet, to this day, folks act like he was a philosopher king floating above politics, when really, he was just the guy who sold you "Yes, we can," then outsourced the instructions to a broken